Let me tell you something that a lot of coaches in this industry do not want you to hear. Sport-specific strength and conditioning is not real. It's a marketing term. It is something coaches and facilities put on their website to make parents feel like they are getting something special, something customized, something that no one else can provide for your athlete. And I understand why it works. It sounds good, it sounds precise, it sounds expertise-wise, but if you actually understand how the human body works and how adaptation happens, the whole concept falls apart quickly. Here's the truth. Every athlete you will ever coach is a human being first. And the human being only moves the same way. Hips do hip things, knees do knee things, the spine does spine things, the shoulder does shoulder things. That is not a baseball thing or a basketball thing or a swimming thing. That is a human thing. Gravity does not care what sport or athlete they play. The ground does not care. Physics do not care. And your training program should reflect that reality instead of pretending otherwise. Now, before I go any further, I want to be clear about what I'm actually arguing here. I'm not saying that every program should be identical. I'm not saying context doesn't matter. Game schedules matter, energy systems demands matter, practice volume matters, injury history matters. All of these shape how a program should be built. But those things are about program structure, not about the actual exercises, because your athlete plays a specific sport over another. That distinction doesn't matter. Most coaches in this conversation never make it here. They think everything is very different and every sport is a unicorn. So where did the sport-specific idea even come from? Honestly, a lot of it comes from marketing. It comes from coaches who figured out that parents and athletes respond emotionally to the word specific. If you say you run a general strength program, that sounds boring. If you say you run a sport-specific performance system designed for rotational athletes, suddenly you sound like you know something no one else does. And that is manipulation. It is subtle, but it is still manipulation. You are selling someone a feeling of exclusivity and customization that does not actually exist in training itself. You are telling them what they want to hear instead of what they actually need to hear, and it will allow them to drive better results. I've been in the field for over 10 years. I have worked with athletes across multiple sports at high school and in the private sector, and here is what I know to be true. The best trained athletes I have ever seen all share the same foundation regardless of their sport. They could hinge well, they could squat well, they could produce force, they were super coordinated, they were able to be super powerful, they were strong. They had the strong ability to train and progressively through a foundational program. That's every single time. The sport is just the context around which you organize the schedule. It does not change the foundation. Let me give you a real example. Take a baseball player and a volleyball player. Someone selling sport-specific training might tell you these athletes need completely different programs. The baseball player needs rotational power, while the volleyball player needs vertical jump and shoulder stability. And yes, those are real qualities. But guess what builds rotational power? Hip hinges, loaded carries, medicine ball work, and a strong posterior chain. Guess what builds vertical jump? Hip hinges, single leg work, plyometrics, med ball work, and a strong posterior chain. Guess what builds shoulder stability? Pulling patterns, scapular control, overhead carries, dips, presses, and that's all for the same program. Same thing for the baseball player. These qualities are not different. The human body and how it adapts is not different. What changes is how you weight the emphasis and how you schedule around the sport demands and the sport schedule as a whole. This is a piece that actually requires coaching skill. not inventing sport-specific movements or calling it or marketing it that way, not coming up with a fancy name for a lateral band walk. The skill is understanding your athlete's schedule, understanding where they are in their season, their progression, their long-term career, just as a athlete in general, understanding what qualities are most limiting to their performance, and then designing a program that builds those qualities efficiently, effectively, without wasting time, energy, and your budget. That is where real coaching lives. And none of that requires you to make up a separate training universe with every single exercise that is sport specific. Here's what I want you to walk away with. If you are a young coach and you are feeling pressure to specialize, to try to be a sport specific, I do X, I do agility, I do speed, to pick a sport or to build a whole identity around being a go-to person for that one thing, pump the brakes. Learn the human body. Learn the movement, how movement works. Learn how adaptation works. Learn how to build strength, power, speed, coordination, have athletes gain weight, and condition athletes so they can be able to perform at the highest level. That's knowledge that transfers to every athlete you will ever coach. That is the foundation that builds a career. And if you are a parent or an athletic director evaluating a program, ask this question. Can this coach explain why they are choosing the exercises they are actually using? Can they walk you through the progression, the regression, the adaptations to every type of exercise? Can they show you how the program changes based off of where the athlete is in their season or injury report or their career as a whole? If the only answer you get is sport specific, keep looking. Specificity in strength and conditioning is about training qualities, loading strategies, and scheduling, not about making up movements that only exist for one sport. Real programs look similar because real physiology is consistent. The separation is between good programs, and a great program is not the exercise list, it is the quality of the coaching, the clarity of the system, and the consistency of the standards. Build those things, and your athletes will develop regardless of what sport they play. And remember, systems drive success. See you next time.